We've got just a few of you on the call today, but hopefully others will watch after and be interested in what we're doing with our storytelling. So Ashley, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome back to Shift, Sustain, and Succeed. We recently introduced our community to our storytelling initiative and introduced Valerie Perry. And this week we'll spend some time with our storyteller, Sydney Herdle. We are so excited to find out what others understand, that every business, organization, and person have a story, and one that's worth telling. Those things that interest us, connect us, and inspire us, and make us want to invest in each other. But that too often is a story that goes untold. Today, we're going to spend time with Sydney. We're going to find out why she has chosen to work in the field of storytelling and how she has used photography, writing, and video to get to know others and to share what they have told her. So if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to submit them in the Zoom chat. We'll do our best to answer those during the call today, or we'll follow up with you. So let's get started. Welcome, Sydney. It's great to see you this morning.
Good to see you guys.
So would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional background?
Yeah,
so you just graduated too, so you can tell us about your education.
Yep. So my name is Sydney Herdle. I am a journalist right now. I'm working with the Titusville Herald. I kind of do a bunch of freelance stuff though. I'm from Franklin. I moved here when I was about 10, and I graduated from Franklin High in 2016. And then, like Susan just said, I just graduated from Penn State in 2020 with a degree in journalism. So my professional background, I started in journalism about my sophomore year at Penn State. I initially went for meteorology, believe it or not, and then decided that calculus wasn't for me. But when I was a freshman, I started working at the Daily Collegian, which is the school student newspaper. And that kind of got me into the idea that I could do storytelling as my profession. Because I had always liked interacting with other people. I liked learning what other people like to do. You know, you ever hear the phrase that people are passionate, or they are passionate about what other people are passionate about. And I had done photography. My sister played softball growing up, so I would shoot her playing sports. So I kind of already had all those skills and stuff, and I never really utilized them in any way. So when I started at the Collegian, that was kind of my, throw it in there. I was a political reporter during the 2016 elections, so that really got me thrown into the into the gist and stuff. So I learned pretty quickly, what it's like to be a journalist and what it means. So that got me started, and then in between my freshman and sophomore year, I started working at the Derrick and the News Herald. I was the intern there both that summer and then the summer afterward. And then while I was at school, I did trips for classes, I did workshops. I started off in writing and then ended up doing my specialization in photojournalism. So I do photography too. And then while I was at school, I also did video work. So that was like with the workshops, and my one class was an international reporting class when I went down to Puerto Rico. And I did a video project for that too. So I don't do a whole lot of video right now because it's not what the newspapers around here like to do, but writing and photography are my big thing. And that's, I also do marketing stuff. When I worked at school, I worked a job at a place called Com Agency, where I was a marketing photographer for them. And then when I was the executive of that team, I also worked with social media and the writing and video sides of that organization as well. So I started in that my junior year, and I did that both my junior and my senior year. So I've tried to incorporate that into my freelance work. I have a business called Sydney Herdle Photography Multimedia. So I work with local businesses to produce marketing materials for them. I do lifestyle portraits, senior pics, grad pics, all that. That was my main income my senior year. And then my journalistic work on top of that too. I've contributed to the Herald. The Titusville Herald, the Derrick, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, CDT over in Center County, and then 8 and 322, which is what the organization that Rich Sayer just started. So that's I just graduated in May. I'm only 22 years old, so I'm pretty young, but I've had a lot of experience in the last few years that I think has helped build my storytelling skills.
You sure have. We met when you were working as an intern because we love working with interns. So that was really wonderful for us to get to know you there. And I know you've been involved in Flex. And it was really a little bit of a chance meeting. Well, I was seeing you this summer with Rich and working with him, but almost a kind of a chance meeting that you and I ran into each other that really sparked the idea of this storytelling initiative that we had been talking about it for a long time here. But really it was you sharing some of your experience, you sharing your story that went like, oh wow, this is time. We've been talking about something, and Sydney just kind of like gave me the launch pad. So I'm so glad that that our paths have continued to cross. Well, tell us a little bit about storytelling in your professional life and just in your life. How has storytelling played a role in what you do? Because when we think about journalism or press releases, often our heads kind of go almost more to marketing and promotion. But
Yeah.
tell us about the story.
Yeah, so I would say I'll start off with the journalism side because that's what I know best. But when you think of journalism, you often think that's just like the hard facts, like the breaking news, like if you see the police reports or anything, that's kind of your first thought with that. Is so the main role of a journalist is to inform and document. So what we try to do, especially when we don't have to do the hard breaking news things, is how do we do that in an interesting way? And that's really where storytelling comes in. Because when you tell a story instead of just presenting the facts and stuff, then it's a lot more engaging, and it helps your audience relate to it more. It might help them understand the information better, and then just be more interested in it and then want to learn more. So it's kind of the same thing with marketing too, except you're doing that for a specific organization or individual. And it's the same kind of thing because I think a lot of marketing, they have a set uh, you know piece of information that they want to get out there, or they have a set idea of what they want to get out there, but it's how do you do that in an interesting way? And it's kind of the same thing. If you do it through telling a story through someone or something, then it's a lot more engaging, and I think people will be a lot more interested in it.
Yeah, that's what we want to get people thinking about, not just what I might want to buy from you, but why I want to buy it
Yeah,
from you,
exactly.
what the story behind things are. Most of us recognize you in your professional time working as a journalist with a camera around your neck.
Yeah.
But you also, as you've said, you write and do other things, and we'll maybe talk about some of that menu of things that our members will have an opportunity to take advantage of. But what's your kind of favorite? What's your favorite process in telling a story?
Yeah, so I think my favorite and my kind of default is like a package kind of thing with writing and photography, because in that way you get all the details and stuff of the story through the writing, but then you also see the visual of it with the photo. And that in the photo, a photo speaks 1,000 words. So you see something and it, you automatically have a bunch of thoughts going through your head about what that is, what does that mean to you, kind of thing. Um, and then in that way, video is the same kind of thing. It's just combining that all into one experience. And that's why video is one of the most engaging, medias that we have available to us at the moment. So it's combining all those aspects. Video is a lot more work, and it takes a little more time to do than just a photo video, or photo writing package. But it's a really engaging way to do the same kind of thing where you get the details through someone's voice, or words on the screen if you're doing a voiceover. But then also getting that visual, and then you have the motion in there too, which adds kind of a third element to that. So I think that's doing one or the other is kind of my go-to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will see what people are interested in doing in their storytelling. I suspect that a lot of those who will want to participate like the idea of the video because they're typically a little anxious about it. So
Yeah.
having a professional to help them get started is appealing, and especially since we're making it not just affordable but free to our members. But but it can also be challenging if you don't know your story. Uh, I'm I'm thinking in some cases it may be better to start with the images or the words and kind of feeling that story before you start the video. Any thoughts on your part? Do you have a kind of evolution process of a story that you think works best for you?
Yeah, and I think I should have mentioned this before too, that, even with the medias and stuff, the ultimate start to that process is with a conversation. You just sit down, over the phone or in person, or over Zoom with our COVID times, and just talk about what it is, what the story is that you want to get out there. And then even so, Rich and I, we've seen this a lot where we go into a story thinking one thing and then we start talking to a person and then we find something else that's even more interesting that we think might tell a better story. So ultimately it's just starting the conversation, getting to know that person or that organization and then figuring out what is it that would tell the story best or what's the best story to tell.
Yeah, that's why in the process of participating in our initiative, we have you start with Ashley and I. So we give you some kind of prompting questions, some things to watch, and we're hoping to get your wheels turning on the story. We may kind of reveal the story before you meet with one of our storytellers, but more than likely we just get you thinking. So I'm guessing that between the time you look at what we send you and you meet with us, you'll be thinking of things. And then once you talk with Ashley and I, you're probably going to think of some new things. And hopefully when you get to the storyteller, because the three of you are such professionals, you'll be able to start identifying that sooner. But we know for some it will be a process. And that's why there will be a number of opportunities. So you explained that so well. Now you have experience with social media. Do you find that there are opportunities for business, particularly businesses and organizations, to build better content than what they're doing? Any really quick tips on that?
Yeah, I think the two things that I would point out would be engaging and be consistent are the two main things. So I feel like engagement is a huge thing, interact with your audience through the comments or do engaging posts like we're doing one right now with the Herald. It's people, post your Halloween costumes, or like we do polls and stuff of what people think are the best Halloween movies and that kind of thing. So be engaging, it's, because it's one thing for someone to look at a post, it's another thing for them to interact with it and stuff. And then it makes them want to come back and do those kind of things again. And then consistency too, because you don't want to be, I'm guilty of this too, where I'll post like either once a week or once every couple of weeks and stuff, and then have a string of like posting once every day for a week. So you want to be consistent in your scheduling. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be like every other day. It could be a couple times a week. But as long as you kind of keep a weekly schedule of what you want to do, like you could do like a couple posts, like if you have a coffee shop or something, like say your Bossa Nova or Karma, you could do like your specials for the week at the beginning of the week and then maybe do like a throwback Thursday thing on Thursdays, that kind of thing. Just be consistent with what you're posting and how often you're posting.
Yeah, that's why I know a lot of small businesses struggle because they don't necessarily have someone on staff that's like super comfortable.
Yeah, and that can be super hard. And, even if you're, just one or two people running a business, social media is a huge monster in itself. So.
Yeah, worth the time of either engaging someone, and we have members that can provide those services, or really empowering one of the employees to get to know better how to do that. I rely so much on my staff to know. In fact, sometimes I'll say, oh, could we do a post about this, that, and the other thing? And they're like, we already have scheduled the post. So we've got this under control. So it's really important these days to have that planned. So you have worked a lot in specifically journalism, and I know that press releases can be a really affordable and effective way to get information out. But sometimes they're not that interesting. Sometimes there's a challenge of getting the newspapers to publish, particularly if you're trying to do it often and, getting the right placement. Do you have any ideas on, is there a good skill? Is it best to work with someone like you on press releases, or can the average business get in the habit of doing good press releases so that they actually do get published?
Yeah, I think at least consulting someone like me, or if you even reach out to the newsroom or something, that we are pretty short staffed. So sometimes that's even the case. Like you'll send a bunch of press releases and we just don't get through them all. So that's something to recognize too. So you want to make sure that your press releases are clear, concise, and as short as possible. Get the very basic information you need, because a lot of times too, press releases are good in that you can send them out to your audience and then also to the journalists, to the papers, to, the other media organizations as well. The media organizations, our job is to take those releases and then get even more information out of that. So that's when you want to keep it, as clear cut as you can, get as few details as it takes to get the information, to make sense. If your press release is longer than a page, then that's a problem. It really should just be about a page long. So, and as long as it's clear, concise, if you have a headline, because press releases do have headlines, if you have a headline that's a real attention grabber, if I see that in the headline of an email, I'm going to click on it if it's a good one. So you want to make sure that headline is your like main focus, that you want to, you know, get that right. And then you also want to, you know, press releases are also good because then it, you know, informs your audience if you post it on your website or on your, you know, your social media or anything. That's a good way to engage with your audience too. And then maybe they'll, you know, want to talk to you about that kind of information. Maybe they'll send you a message on your social media or come into your business or organization to want to talk to you about that. But making sure that those are short, you know, they're clear and concise, and then that gives people the opportunity to engage with you and ask you even more questions about whatever it is that you're writing that press release about.
Do you think it's better to include a photo with a press release if you have it? You know, the old days were that we all called the newspaper and said, hey, will you send a photographer? But we've kind of gone through a time where a lot of the newspapers say, well, we can't, so just send a picture. Is there, what's best?
Yeah, I would include it. If you're going to include a photo, I would include it separately from the press release itself. I would keep the press releases out one page, just the body text and whatever your header is for your organization. And then if you wanted to send photos along, you could send that as attachments. If you're sending it in an email or mailing it in, you know, send them separately. To that, it's really unfortunate because at the papers we try as hard as we can to get our own original photos, because that's often part of the storytelling thing too, is,
Yeah.
you know, having, you know, people providing photos can be really interesting and stuff, but we can also, you know, sometimes do a better job of telling the story through taking our own photos. But the reality is that, I mean, I'm the only professional photographer left at the Herald. Derek doesn't have one anymore because they laid Rich off. So it's, you know, it's very difficult to do that anymore. So if you have photos that you think could contribute to that, that's great. That doesn't guarantee that the paper will use them or anything, but
Do you have a tip or trick to, if I send a press release, is there a hook that I'm more than likely, is it just a good the subject, you know, of or title of the press release? Is there anything else that I should make sure that I do if I want to get the attention of the?
I was just say the lead too, the lead of the press release. You want to make sure that that's, you know, a nice hook. You need to think of the same thing as the paper. If you're reading through the paper and you read the first two paragraphs and that, you know, sometimes it's really interesting and then you want to keep reading, and sometimes it's not as interesting and you just kind of skim away from it and stuff. It's just the exact same kind of thing with press releases. You want to make sure that that first graph or two are, you know, they hook the reader and they want to keep reading through the rest of the press release.
So it sounds to me like your first few sentences or paragraph need to have a good story.
Yep. Yeah, you want to make sure that you jump right into that story, that you don't just have like any other frilly details or anything, because that's not what's going to hook the reader. The story is what's going to hook the reader.
Great. Well, I want to explore a little bit more some of your work around video blogging, writing, but this might be a good chance to mention to the listeners that then the second kind of part of the process, as we after you've talked to Ashley and I, and you start to think about what your story is, we really will be offering a full menu of options for working with our storytellers. So while I know that both Val and Rich have a number of things they work in, I somewhat feel like you have the most experience in the largest variety of media, for especially considering your age, because they're way older than you. but you know, you have worked both professionally and in your schooling in so many different areas. So for example, we may have people listening that are like, well, I'm just not ready to jump into video. We have every now and then you have someone that's not interested in social media, maybe not blogging, but again, want to be doing something with press releases and need your help. They can get your help with that. If it's photographs, it could be photos for their social media, it could be for their website, it could be to go along with press release. Maybe they've got press releases down, but they really just don't know what kind of photos they should be including. So one option is certainly actually having you take photos, which would be silly for anyone to waste the opportunity on that, but also you know, giving some advice, you know, spending their time to know how to take a better photo themselves when they're submitting something or including something on social media. So there's a lot of ways that you can assist our members in how to do better. And really, we're not trying to define how they spend their time with you. But in that respect, do you want to talk a little bit about the variety of media you work in, how you work, if you have a preference?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's the one nice thing about, recently getting my degrees, that we were trained, because there's so many different forms of media that we can use nowadays. I've been trained in pretty much all of them, both in marketing and in journalism. And I will say too that Val and Rich are a lot older than me, so that means that they do have a lot more experience in their
Well, we'll give them that. We'll give them that. That's true.
But at least consulting wise, I mean, I could work with you guys, to get, whatever kind of media you need and stuff. But I am pretty well rounded. I can do pretty much any of the areas, writing, photo, video, social media, all that.
Yeah. Now you blog a bit?
I do. I don't as often as I like to, because I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I'll jot ideas down and stuff, and I'll be like, someday I'll get to it and stuff. But it's blogging is a relatively easy thing that you can do. If you do like a 300 or 400 word piece, that you can throw it on your website. If you just have, something funny that you thought of, or something, random happens to you that you think would be a good story to tell your audience, that's, blogging is a really great way to do that. And then that gets people, if you have a website for your business or organization, that can draw them from your social media pages onto that website. And then maybe they'll be more interested in, whatever business you try to do. So.
Great. One of the other things I thought I'd mention, because I know you have experience with, is we're not far away from the publishing of the Business Review and Forecast. That is a publication of the Derrick that, as a business organization, we strongly recommend that every business take advantage of the opportunity to submit a story. So, if people haven't done that, or say, hey, I've done it, I don't think I've done it well, that would be an excellent place to start with a story or press release.
Yeah, and something like that too. I don't work for the Derrick anymore, so I wouldn't be able to work directly with you for that. But if you have worries about, like talking to Cindy Power, who's the one who puts that together, or any of the, the reporters over there help contribute to that too. If you have any worries about talking to them, if you want some advice going into those interviews and stuff, and talking to those folks, or sending information their way.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of our businesses that will write and contribute. So help at getting started with that.
So if you need help, getting off the launching pad for that and stuff, I'd be more than happy to help with that too.
Great. Well, I'm excited about the variety of opportunities here. If anyone has any questions for Sydney specific, we have a little bit of time left that we'd be happy to, to direct questions to her. I'll take a look here and make sure that I can see the chat. But Sydney, any last minute thoughts from you on what you're hoping to learn out of meeting with our members?
Well, I guess what I would want to learn is just, more about the area. I've learned a lot, working for the papers. It's helped me open my eyes more to what's available in the area, what kind of people are here, what kind of businesses and organizations are here. And it's really cool. It's been really cool over the last few years to experience that. So I guess, expanding more upon that. And then in turn, being able to help, our businesses and organizations and individuals, with any needs that they may have, marketing and advertising wise. And if you do, want to work with me or anything, I would just say, be prepared to have a conversation. Be prepared to, try and get an idea of what the story is that you want to tell. Through that conversation, we'll be able to figure out, what exactly that story is, because I might be able to point out something that you might not have thought of before or something. But and we do have a question. Yay.
Yeah.
Can you review and give inputs on website copy? Website copy, I think with websites, you want to keep the number of pages that you have to a minimum. And obviously this depends on what kind of business you do too. You definitely want to have at least an about and contact page. The about page, I think, is the most important part of your website, because that tells people who you are, what you do. And you want to do that. That's another thing that you want to do in a clear and concise way, because, these days with the internet and social media, people's attention, is harder to grab and stuff. So you want to make sure that you hook people really fast, make them want to learn more. So website copy, you want to keep that, to a minimum as well. And then that also introduces, then kind of like what I was saying with the press releases before, that gives people an opportunity to reach out to you or stop into your business or such to learn more about that. So you want to keep it to a minimum, get the details in there. And then that can help people engage in you more too. And yeah, I absolutely can do that if you need to as well. It's the same kind of thing. It's like the blog post and the social media. I can look over that if you have
One of
any
the
questions.
things that I see occasionally, I love kind of tying all of this together. And I spend a lot of time on websites trying to learn things about people. But every once in a while, there's something I want to print and really dig into. If you're going to have a lot of copy and take me into the details, it's very likely that I'm going to want to print it and sit with a cup of coffee on my couch and read it. So making sure, do you ever advise that? Making sure that what is out there is available for those of us, particularly with detailed stuff to print and view that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think, especially some of the people who like to go the old school route and stuff, that's a great way to do that.
Yeah. Jen,
Well, thanks, Jen.
Yeah. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, well, I'm really excited to get going. Again, I shared with Sydney that we have had a few people sign up. We've had one meeting and we have a few others scheduled. So we'd love to meet with any of you. I absolutely believe everyone has a story. I think Sydney agrees with me, and we know that Rich and Val think so too. One thing I want to mention that I may have mentioned last week, we know that we tend to think about telling our story to our customers or those people who we're trying to engage in the community. But I want to suggest that there are other people around you that need to hear your story. And it may be the employees you work with, it may be your family. If you know and understand why you do what you do and what compels you to get out of bed each day and work hard, you want to make sure that those people you're relying on for support know that story too and feel it and are sharing it. So I would suggest that if you don't think that there's an opportunity for you here, think again. I think everybody needs to know their story. And I am so excited that we have Sydney with us and the others. I think this will be a unique opportunity that I'm not sure I'm not sure how long it will last for us, and I'm not sure when we'll be able to make it available again. So please don't waste any time getting started with us. We'd love to schedule a meeting with Ashley and I, and then with Sydney, Valerie, or Richard, and possibly with all three of them. We can make that happen if we have people that really want to explore different storytelling methods and different people. So we'd be happy to do that. So thank you again for joining us, Sydney. I've had her information posted up here if you want to learn more about Sydney on her Facebook page. And of course, we always throw things out on our website so you can see registration links for our next sessions. We will be talking with Richard next week, digging in a bit with him. We have the recording of the session, so if you want to listen again or if you want to share this with somebody, you can. And then resources that we've mentioned. So we'll maybe check in with Sydney to see if there's something that we can throw up there. Sometimes we have extra tips, tricks, or anything we've referenced. So we'll look forward to being here again next week with Richard. And then we'll have two final sessions where we're going to talk a little bit about the Chamber platform and where you might want to take some of the product that you've come out of with our storytellers and maybe utilize what we can offer here at the Chamber. We'll also have a session on the importance of the facts. So when you talk about the press releases, those involve the date, the time, the place, all those details. And we often find that businesses lose sight of sharing those details in the right places, in the right way, updated frequently. So we'll talk a little bit about that process and making sure that you're doing that right. So at that, I'll encourage you all to enjoy this beautiful day. Save your computer work for when it turns cold and yucky, and get outside and take a walk and think about your why today. So have a great week. We'll see you all next week.